Hey, really quick before we start the show, did you know that we are on YouTube, Instagram, and Instagram TV? Please check us out on those platforms and subscribe. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the BlowOUTGrowth Network. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Youre, your host, and today I'm really excited to present someone extremely interesting. And I've been really excited to bring on a fitness enthusiast and a fitness expert for a long time, because the importance of being able to connect this mind-body balance, create this balance in yourself, is just one of the biggest key elements to creating success in your life, no matter where you apply it. So I'm very excited, because I think it's one of the most underrated aspects of gaining success. And so I'm very happy here. This is one of the more impressive bios that I've come across my desk here. So Jillian Potashnick, she is a fitness enthusiast. She's a Pilates certified since 2008. She's been featured in Pilates Style magazine. She's yoga certified since 2016. She's been a guest speaker on the Fit, Fierce, and Fabulous podcast. She's a Women's Philanthropy Council member for Jewish Nevada. She's the owner of 1109 Fitness. She's a kids fitness instructor. She's a philanthropist, a regular blood donor, Lion of Judah women's philanthropist. She's a boy mama wife. She's an author of this incredible book called The 5 F-Bombs, which is a fantastic book which makes light of our attempt at diffusing the common daily struggles with food, fitness, friends, family, and faith. We're going to dig into that. She's the author of several extremely fun and insightful articles like Hot Yoga, I Think I'll Pass, and At Age 40s, I'm Still Getting Carded. She won Mench of the Year for Jewish Nevada. She's one of the most fun, clever, witty, and driven women that I know. I'm really proud to introduce Jillian Potashnick. What's up, Jillian? Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Hi, Gio. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing really well. Thank you for taking some time to share your expertise and your experience with us and our audience. So we're happy to have you today.
Anytime.
So first, I like to ask all of our guests so that we can gauge where everybody's at. How old are you?
I'm 40.
And actually, I was reading your article, and I'm not going to jump in with it now, but that whole article, really, I'm in love with those two. Those two really speak well. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But before we jump in there, what is your definition of success?
I think success is just when you're good at something. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're making money from it, but if you enjoy something and you excel at it, that's success.
Well, and I agree wholeheartedly. And I think one of the key elements of creating, success or achieving success is exactly what you said. You have to be so into something that you can be really great at it.
Yes.
And I've noticed too, and I know a lot of it, a passion. And when you have the passion, what I realize is that normally the money does come.
Right.
And it's that kind of law of attraction.
Yeah. I think people think successful just means that you make a lot of money. But if you're doing it unethically or you hate your life, just because you're making money, to me, that doesn't mean success. I think you have to fall in love with whatever it is you choose to do in life. And then you're successful in family and friends. And eventually, like you said, then the money will come.
It does. And I think what you talk about there is one of the key elements too, is building those relationships and just being so authentic and so present in the moment that you can create those kinds of bonds. And I know that you're really good at doing that.
Yes.
And so can you tell us a little bit about
Maybe
that?
To a fault.
Well, tell us about that. Well, how could it be to a fault?
Well, I end up becoming friends with most of my clients to some degree, and we'll end up hanging out and, just even gone on vacations together, and we'll text about other things that have nothing to do with fitness, maybe a show or something random. And I really create a bond with not all, but a lot of my clients. And it just evolves from there. And then they'll text me random questions about an outfit, or this or that. And Do you like your car? I'm looking into getting one. And our relationship starts out at a fitness based, kind of superficial level. I want to lose a size in my jeans, and whatever. And then it evolves. I'm like, so are you taking daily vitamins? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, you should be. And, I'll suggest or recommend they go to their general doctor and get a blood panel. And then one of them came back to me and she was like, oh my gosh, my thyroid levels are completely out of whack. I never knew. I just thought I was tired because I'm getting old, or I just thought I was gaining weight because I've hit menopause, or that, there's lots of other side effects of hypothyroidism that are also side effects of other things. So people often don't even think about it. And so just a little suggestion or a bug in someone's ear. I'm not a doctor. I can't take their blood. I can't, read their results and tell them anything. But sometimes you just need that extra little nudge. Oh yeah, I probably should do that. And then it snowballs into just a better quality of life outside of coming to a Pilates class or a yoga class. But it's the overall, are you drinking enough water? Are you getting enough sleep? The things that we all know we have to do.
But need to be reminded. And
exactly.
And so,
exactly.
I find that to be extremely true in my business too, as a consultant. I find that my role is often to remind people, to provide options, to be able to be that. It's so hard to see the forest through the trees, especially when you're, spearheading a company, or you're just trying to manage your day to day, or if you've even got kids or something. Like, things get crazy really fast, really easy. And we as humans default to what is right in front of me right now. And sometimes you got to remember, like, hey, like what you just said, hey, you know what? Guess what? There's technologies out there right now. You could take a couple pricks of your finger, send it in. You got, everything. Did you think about that? And most of the time that's so helpful. So what you do is really, beyond that. That's almost to the level of like a life coach in a couple of different ways, isn't it?
I don't call myself that, but I don't think anyone else has, but I like, if you're going to see better or quicker results from taking my fitness class, it's not just going to be from my fitness class. It has to be from, the trifecta, all different areas of your life. So I feel like it just makes sense that I would.
Yeah. Well, it certainly makes sense. Yeah. You have to have that holistic approach, right? In order to achieve it. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, for anybody that doesn't know what a mensch is, can you give us an idea? Just give us your definition of what you won that award for. It's such a fun thing, to be.
So it's a Yiddish word. It's Yiddish is, for lack of better words, like a dead language, kind of like Latin. There's no country that claims it as their own. But a lot of Jewish grandparents speak a few Yiddish words here and there. So a mensch is just like a person that always is like, oh yeah, I can pick you up. I'll take you to the airport. You're not feeling well? Let me bring you some soup. Just someone that's like
a nice person.
Yeah,
a really caring, nice person, right?
Kind of goes out of their way to make other people's lives a little bit easier.
What an amazing compliment. to get the Mench of the Year award. I love that. I love that about you too. I think that's so fun, and it fits what I know about your personality. And I think I know the answer to this next one that I want to ask you, but I think I want to hear you say it, because maybe I don't know what I don't know.
Okay.
But one thing that I do see in a lot of the companies that I consult with is there's kind of a tiredness. Like, people, they seem to feel like they're overwhelmed. Like, so many people I know, vast majority of people that I know right now, no matter what they do, no matter where they are in their lives, I feel like we're at this point in society where everybody just feels overloaded.
Yeah.
And it's hard, to kind of wake up in the morning and, be motivated to get your day started, and to, hey, all right, so I just had a bad 4 days right behind me, right? Today's going to be better, right? And I woke up yesterday and I said, today's going to be better. And I woke up the day, right? So, I'd like to start with you on how do you stay motivated? How do you stay motivated? Mench of the Year. How do you stay motivated? I want, and be able to do the because you're also a mom, you're also a wife, you have this, you balance and juggle things, and you've got this litany of things, of accolades that you've achieved along the way. How do you do it? How do you do it? And how does somebody, that doesn't necessarily know how to do it, do it?
I stay motivated by being very vocal about my goals. So a lot of people, they have goals in their mind, and that's not good enough. You have to just tell anybody that will listen. For instance, when I was 18, I just started telling people that I was going to have a bat mitzvah on my 37th birthday because I didn't have one when I was 13. And I just was saying it very matter of fact, not like I want to have a bat mitzvah on my 37th birthday. 37 is my lucky number, by the way, but that I am going to. And people would be like, oh, okay, invite me. You know, it's in however many years, but yeah, I'll be there. And every year I would keep telling people, oh, I'm going to have a bat mitzvah on my 37th birthday. And sure enough, I had a bat mitzvah on my 37th
No
birthday.
way.
Amazing.
That's great.
And I decided that I wanted to write a book and publish it when I was 37. So as soon as my bat mitzvah ended, I kind of waited a month and then just started writing. And then 4 months later, I just published it. I was like, I don't want to overthink it. Now I read it and I'm like, oh, I probably should have spent some more time. But it's how I really felt in those 4 months when I was my lucky number. And I just wrote it. So it's authentic to me at that time. And the reason I think that I can actually say I have a book on Amazon is because I was telling people for years, I'm going to write a book one day. Not I want to, but I'm going to. And just saying it in your head isn't good enough. But that's where you start. So your thoughts become your words, and then your words become your actions. That is a yogic mantra that has been around for thousands of years. I did not make it up. The monks have been using it. It's nothing new, but it's true. So your thoughts become your words, and your words become your actions. So
your actions
having
become
a
your
goal,
realities.
yeah. So having a goal in your head is not the same as talking about your goal and telling
action.
I don't care if you're telling the person behind you in line at the grocery store, just getting it out of your mouth helps it to become a reality.
That's so interesting too, because we've heard these different things, especially a lot of our viewers are probably very, well read, especially with things, because we talk about, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And that's one of the premises that he thinks in there, that he says that you have to take that action. You have to create it, speak it into reality. And that's how you do it. But it's so counterintuitive to so many people to say, because I'm sure you've heard it too, Jillian, you're not supposed to say anything. You're supposed to keep everything close. But that's not really how it works. How it really works is to let it out and to share and to put things together and to take that kind of leap of faith to be able to do that. And you do it. You're saying do it to everybody.
Everybody. I think people are afraid to say their goals because they think people are going to laugh at them or be like, why? But if someone does that, then that's not the person you want in your energy anyway. So then it's a good test to get that person away. Sure. And they're afraid that if they don't do it, then they've let that person down. But you need to use that as accountability. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. And I think that doing that is, it's key for moving that part forward in your direction and not being afraid to kind of take that leap of faith in yourself.
Right.
Say, hey, you know what? I am going to believe in myself so much that I am going to do it. And I'll tell you, I agree 100%. And when I consult, one of the first things that we do is I ask them, I said, tell me whatever it is, right, Jillian, tell me, what's your best case scenario? And they're like, well, that's never going to happen. Well, if you don't know what your best case scenario is, then it'll never happen. So why don't we start there and let's see how close we can get. And when I find that the more often that people do that, it's an incredibly successful train of thought, because you are now aware of what it is that you want. And so now I'm able to speak it into reality. It's very cool to hear you say that. So, let me ask then, because the next thing I wanted to see was actually that book. So that is the book that you read after the bat mitzvah, and it's the 5 F bombs. It's an amazing book. It was recently published, right? So tell us all about it.
It was published in 2019. So basically after 10 or so years of teaching Pilates and fitness to primarily women, but a few men here and there too, of all ages. It would just make me laugh that the 60-some-year-old women were coming in talking about the exact same things that the 20-some-year-olds were coming in talking about, but just in different, but the same topics. And I was like, oh my gosh, so we're never going to like figure out what the best diet is, are we? Because 40 years later, we're still talking about it, and new diets are always coming out. And as far as food, and it's just, it's like, it's food. How have we not figured this out yet? Just eat less, move more. Like, it's that simple. But no, there's always advertising people that want to put, gluten-free and these new keto and all these new buzzwords, paleo, and it just confuses everybody. And then they're like, wait, so is this, it cracked me up when Twizzlers said gluten-free. I'm like, why would a Twizzler not be gluten-free? Like, what? But it's a buzzword that people are like, oh, and it's like, so people aren't even really thinking about it.
No.
But anyway, so that, and I'm not a big foodie. So if people would ask me food advice and I'd be like, I'm not a registered dietitian. Like, I don't know. I just have to eat to survive. So like, this is, I guess, what I do, but I'm not like super into, I'm not like a vegan or, vegetarian or gluten-free or all these restrictions. I just eat what I like and I don't eat what I don't like. And I stop eating when I'm full. Like, there's really no.
Well, you said it earlier about, keeping it simple. And I think that was something that's very underrated. And I think people complicate simple.
Totally.
Right?
Yes. So I've done 3 different food delivery things now. I did, what was the first one? Green Chef. Loved it. They send you all the ingredients and you just make it. And that was a vegetarian one. And then I did that for several months. Then I switched to HelloFresh. That one had some meat and stuff. Didn't love that one as much as far as the meal options, but it simplifies it. You don't have to go to the grocery store and get all the ingredients. And now I'm on Blue Apron. And I like it as well. I want to eventually try them all out after several months, but it's nice just 2 nights a week to know that you've got all the ingredients there to make like a meal.
Yeah.
And then
my wife and I do that too. We do.
Yeah, it's great. A night you don't have time.
Yep.
Put in a frozen pizza. My favorite is the cauliflower crust frozen pizza. It's so good.
Yeah.
And it's so fast and it's inexpensive and it's quick. Like, it doesn't
checks all the boxes. We're huge on that in our house too. And it's smart. And because you're able to see, that's the thing that's cool right now. This time and day and age to be alive is amazing because we have all this tech, right? We've got all this technology that learned how to like grind up cauliflower into powder and create this crust that does everything we need it to do, but it doesn't impact our body, right? I mean, why not? I'll never forget one of the most impactful things that I ever heard was my mom. My mother used to tell me, she'd say, you live in a world with technology, take advantage of it. Mm-hmm. And it's so, again, it's so simple, right? But then we complicate it because then we ask ourselves, well, should we be doing this? Should we not be doing this? And then we, play internal ping pong until we shit on it till it's dead, it's right. Gone. It's so I keep it simple and make these less complicated. I love what you said, eat less, move more. Yeah.
I mean, that's, again, I didn't invent it. Jillian Michaels says it. It's nothing new, but it's so common sense that I think people forget.
That's one of my favorite parts about you, Jillian, and one of my favorite parts about getting to know you so far has been you're incredibly authentic, and you have this extremely eloquent style of not only talking but writing. I think you've got an amazing talent. It puts the audience, and you have this ability to kind of take the audience and put them in a place where we can like immediately relate to you. And like when I was reading Hot Yoga, I think I'll pass that one that you wrote, I literally felt like I was in the room with you and I was like dripping sweat and gagging from the odor. And, I gotta ask, look at her, look at, she's there now. When did you realize that you had that gift where you're able to kind of recall things like that with such vivid imagery?
I don't know. I have no training in writing. I mean, I did graduate high school and I graduated college. So I've taken all the general education writing courses, but my degree was in fashion design and product development. So a lot of my classes were drawing and pattern making and sewing, and had nothing to do with writing. But I like talking to people. And so I just put down on paper what I would say in real life, and I don't change it. That's it.
It's a talent. It's a
That's
real
literally
talent.
it.
I think it's one of your best skills, though. I mean, I think it helps the fact that you are so able to be that transparent with others, and I think that really works in your favor. You know, I want to ask you, what are you most proud of?
Oh my goodness. It depends on the day or the year, the week that you
Well,
ask me that.
How about today?
I'm proud of my family. You know, my husband is successful, and my son is a kind, fun, smart person, and that's very rewarding. And we have collectively all reached a lot of our personal goals, and there's still a lot left to come that we all, all three of us, my family, my husband and my son and I, would like to do. We travel, and we have lots of friends, and we're close with our family. So I'm very proud of that.
What a great thing. What a great thing, and what a blessing. So awesome to hear you say that. We've had so many different answers to that question so far, from all the guests. So that's really cool to hear you say. So, getting into your ideas of how important it is to link the mind and the body together, and this path and journey that you've taken in fitness to try so many different things and find the different things and what they're good for. So I'd like to ask, what are the key elements that people need to start implementing, or that they can start implementing like today, or say, hey, I'm going to start something tomorrow? Like what kinds of things are you going to say are like key elements that can help them to start finding what these right, fitness designs are for them, and why? What kinds of benefits? What do you think somebody that's like, hey, I want to make a change, tell me what can I do to make a change today?
Well, the very first and easiest thing that I tell everybody to do, and 8 out of 10 don't do it, is allotting yourself at least 10 minutes every single solitary day to stretch. You thought I was going to say meditate, didn't you?
I did.
I know. But no, that is an unrealistic request for the average person.
Yeah.
It just is.
It's tough.
Just is.
It's tough. I know.
But stretching daily, I tell people, is equivalent to brushing your teeth daily. You need it for good overall hygiene and health, right? Brushing your teeth.
100%.
And that's the same with stretching. So say, and this is in my book, say you get in a car accident, right? Your body, your vertebrae, is designed to absorb the shock and disperse it, okay? If you're hunched over, right, and your muscles are tight and everything, and you have that impact, guess what happens? Wherever you get hit the most is kind of where it stays.
Oh.
And then that's when people have major issues, right? And it's not just car accidents. Say you trip and fall on a rug, say you're playing sports and someone, runs into you, or you're snowboarding and you fall. It could be any sort of an impact. Your body is designed essentially to disperse that impact. So when your muscles are tight, it can't do that. It just can't. So that's why, you heard of like drunk drivers that survive and the sober person.
So relaxed.
Dies. Well, they're relaxed. Exactly.
They're so relaxed.
So think about, your muscles are more relaxed when they're limber, when they're pliable.
Yeah.
So just for overall physical, meaning pain-free, and if God forbid anything happens, you're flexible, you'll probably be okay. I'm not saying it's going to save your life if you splits and you get in a car accident.
No,
clearly,
right,
that is an extreme.
No, right.
Just general impact. Your body, if you're flexible, should be just fine. I actually did get in a car accident when I was 16. I'd only had my license for 1 week. Luckily, I was by myself. I rear-ended a school bus.
Ooh.
I was by myself. Yeah. but the bus was full. Anyway, I was on black ice. It was in Indiana. It was December. So my brakes weren't working because of the ice. And being a new driver, I just kept slamming on my brakes instead of like tapping. So I slammed right into the bus.
Oh.
The airbag went up, car was totaled, hopped out of the car, and people were like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine." I'm like, "Oh my God, I broke a nail." That was literally it. I was in gymnastics in high school and whatnot. So anyway, I was limber, but I was perfectly fine. The car was totaled, the airbag went up. I mean, literally, I ran into a school bus. I was fine. So I can tell you from personal experience, there is validity to that argument of if you're more limber, you're less likely to get injured.
100%.
My number one suggestion for what any person can do just starting today is stretch daily.
You're 100% right. That's what I think also is probably one of the most important things. I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 45, and right around the time I turned 40, and this is pretty common for a lot of people in general. Like there's ages that kind of hit. For me, it was 40. So for some people, it's 35. For some, it could be older. But once my body changed, and there was nothing I did, to make it change. Once it changed, stretching became the most important thing to me. It is 100%, why older people, as you get older, why they have a lot of other mobility problems. And it's mainly because if you don't use it, you lose it, and you need to stretch it, and you need to get it moving. Like we have a phrase here, we're put on this earth to move, and that means we have to move. So that's awesome. That's a great thing for everybody to know. And like we said in the beginning, to be reminded of and to hear. It's more important than ever before. So
an object in motion remains in motion, an object at rest remains at rest. It's no different with being able to bend your leg and lift your arm to get something on the top shelf. You never have to do it. And then one day you're like,
and that happens all the time. And it happens as you get older too. It's pretty ridiculous. I think about this a lot in a lot of our conversations with either the people on the show or just people that I know. We have a phrase, and I want to hear what your reaction is to this. But here's the phrase: you're only one decision away from a totally different life.
Oh, for sure.
Tell us what you think about that.
My husband didn't want to go to this mixer that my sorority and his fraternity were having in college, and his friend Mike made him go, and that's where we met.
Oh.
So we always say, Mike didn't set us up, but he made Eric go to that mixer, and the rest, we've been together literally ever since that night. That was over 20 years ago.
Wow.
So it's like, what if he didn't go, then he'd be with someone else, I'd be with someone else, our lives would be totally different. That's definitely true.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great example too. So, you're such a developed and graduated level up woman. You've got an amazing skill set and all these different talents that bring you to all these different places. I'm sure you've had many aha moments, but can you tell us about one of them?
Well, one I had just recently, like maybe a month ago, was, we all get frustrated with our kids. You have kids, and I know you have 2 daughters.
Yep.
And when they yell, and then you yell, or they get, mad, and then you get mad, and it's kind of like this, when does it end? Because you're feeding into them, and then they're feeding into you, and this whole thing. So anyway, I had this aha moment from this book called Parenting from the Inside Out, where he said, if you are equal or being equal in the argument with your kid, you're throwing a temper tantrum. Then as the adult, you're now behaving like a child.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I need to not sink to his level because he's acting his age. I am not.
What a great aha.
And then I was like, okay, I'm going to test this out. And then the next time he did something, I said, so what are you really feeling? And I didn't elevate it, and And then he kind of came down a notch, and then it became a conversation. And I was like, oh my God, I had the power the whole time. I felt like Dorothy when she was like clicking her shoes. She was like, I had the power the whole time. And she didn't know it. I was like I was escalating the argument instead of preventing it, from getting worse just by matching his energy. And really, as the adult, I needed to, and things have been amazing since I had that.
It's so difficult to do that in the moment, though. It's so difficult.
It's worth it when it ends the argument right away.
I love
and
that.
The argument could be about brushing your teeth. It could be about doing your homework. It could be about, get your shoes on for the 10th time. That's not saying these are like important arguments. They're, parent to kid normal arguments.
But they can be, because Jillian, that what you just said is actually one of the top sales techniques that top salespeople use. Is they call it, match the other person's energy, or if it's not the energy you want, then create that energy that you want. And it will be so powerful when you do it that it actually takes the whatever it is, takes the attention, the conversation, whatever it is you're trying to achieve. The peaceful warrior, right? We've all heard the peaceful warrior. It's so difficult to do. And if you have the presence of mind to be able to think of it like that in that moment, do you have any hints and tips now that you've been mastering it recently? Like what was able to give you that moment of presence where you're like, I need to try this? Like, what was it?
I was in line actually at a store and by myself. So my son wasn't with me, but the woman in front of me, her kid was just going crazy and she was like mortified, and I could tell she was so embarrassed. And I just stood in tree pose. I stood on one foot and I said to the little girl, I go, I bet you can't stand on one foot. And then I was standing on one foot and she froze and she looked at me and she stood on one foot and she was like, and I go, you think you can hold it longer than me? And she's like, oh. And she was just standing there and she was a little wobbling, of course, like most kids when they hold tree pose. And I was solid. And the mom looks at me, she goes,
oh, fabulous. What a mensch.
The mom kept saying to this little girl, stop running around, stop running around. So all the girl is hearing is running around. Like, she's not hearing the word stop. You know what I mean? She was just like, kept running around. The mom wasn't telling the girl what to do, but just telling her what not to do. And then I just started, and I didn't say stand on one foot. I just started standing on one foot and was like, I bet you can. Next thing you know, that girl was frozen like a statue.
Wow.
It was pretty neat.
That is some real blowout growth in terms of your ability, your Jedi skills, your mastery of that's so powerful.
It was fun.
Look at you. You can tell it was fun. You are you're amazing. Wow, how amazing. That's so much fun. Okay, I've been dying to ask somebody this question. I only asked one person this question that I've interviewed, and I think that you'd be a fun one for this one. So in my life, I've had these realizations based on age, and I, generalize, even though we don't have to, but for this we'll generalize. But like when I was going through my 20s, I had certain realizations. When I hit my 30s, I had other realizations that I never had. Now that I'm in my 40s right now, I mean, it's like almost like opium to my brain. It's so much fun in being able to be this. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, were there any like realizations, by decade maybe, that you could pull out and say, these were things that I really built off of, or these are things that were really changing for me that, helped me to graduate and elevate my mind, to where you are now?
Well, I think it's interesting because your idea of who you are and who you want to be is constantly evolving, as it should. I mean, in high school, I wanted to be a fashion designer, and, then in college, it evolved to costume design. And then when I graduated college and I moved out to Vegas to, of course, make costumes for showgirls, I did that for about 9 months, hated every second.
Oh, really?
Yes. I mean, I interned summer before my senior year at a costume shop here in Vegas. And then as soon as I graduated, they hired me, and I was making the same that I was when I was an intern. and which was fine for a few months. And then I asked kind of about like, hey, when am I eligible for like, you know, a raise? And they're like, oh no, this is what everyone gets paid. And I was like, oh. And it was very, you know, tedious, and you know, you're hand gluing Swarovski crystals and washing, you know, costume rentals by hand as they come back, and gluing paillettes and feathers, and it's fun for a little bit, and then yeah. And I'm more of like an interactive person. I like to move. I like to talk to different people all the time, and you're in your station in a costume shop and you're talking to costumes essentially. And it's just repetition. There's not a lot of movement, not a lot of talking. And I was like, I know I just finished a 4-year degree, but this is not for me.
Wow.
And so I had 14 different jobs in 4 years after college.
Wow.
4 years.
Wow.
And my 14th job was a Pilates instructor.
Really?
And that is where it stuck. So
Wow.
I'm still doing that now since 2008. So
wow. That's interesting. So, I mean, never give up.
Exactly.
Never give up. How many? 14 jobs?
Yeah. I just kept
What were some of
trying
them?
things because I was like, I don't want to just do something to get a paycheck. Like and you don't know until you try. Like I never worked in a restaurant, so I worked in 2 different restaurants. I worked retail. I worked, 3-4 different retail jobs. I worked just different things. I was an administrative assistant with MGM Resorts and an assistant buyer with MGM Resort. I mean, I had a plethora of jobs. And finally, I was taking a Pilates class at 24 Hour Fitness, which isn't even there anymore. It's now like, it's the one on Sahara in Buffalo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't remember.
And I was looking at the instructor that was teaching, and I was like, she's working. Like, holy cow. And I remember coming home and telling my husband, okay, I want to be a Pilates instructor. And he's like, kind of the eye roll. Okay, this again. And he made me, being an entrepreneur, he was like, well, figure out what your ROI is. And I'm like, what's ROI? He's like, your return on investment. And I'm like, okay. He's like, how much does it cost to get certified? Call all the studios in town, see what certifications they even look for, ask how many hours roughly a week the Pilates instructors work, and roughly how much they make an hour, and how long it's going to take you to earn back your, this and that. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And so I looked everything up. I called every single studio. I made a spreadsheet, and I was like, here. And he's like, okay, I think you should do it. And I did it. And the rest is history. So I'm lucky to have a supportive husband, but also he is a businessman, and he wants, he wanted to see the facts, see the numbers.
Well, I mean, if everybody was paying attention just now, you could see how excited and so full of life that Jillian just got by even telling us how that. And I think that really speaks to what she said a little bit earlier about finding your passion. Like you need to be feeling that about what you do. And I 100% agree with you. Anybody that knows me knows my history and my histories in business. And, when I finally did find my stride at what I really loved, it really doesn't feel like work. And that's where you kind of know, at least that's what where I knew I had found my sweet spot. When I'm just comfortable being present in what I'm doing, I'm really focusing on. And there's a lot of people, they're not in that position. They may be doing a job and they might want to, be thinking their head is somewhere else, and they might be wanting to go somewhere else. And I 100% agree, and a lot of our guests agree, that you need to find your passion. And that is really one of the main keys to success, because then when everything feels right, it is right. Yeah. And that's, being what you said in the beginning, that's your moment of success. And that, from there, everything can happen. Whatever your ultimate goals are, really, if it's collecting money or collecting trophies or collecting pats on the back, whatever your definition of what you want to achieve, it really can only be, gone after in when you're in that moment. So I think, finding that place where you can balance yourself and use the ability to create, like, talk to us about yoga, talk to us about Pilates. Why do people want to do these things? Why should we be doing it?
Well, posture, unfortunately, because of technology now. We're all on our phones, and you're driving, your shoulders are forward, and you're eating, your shoulders are forward, and everything we do pretty much in our daily life, it requires kind of forward shoulders. And so that has, with evolution, our bodies have created a little bit more forward shoulders. So we can't not text and drive and eat and do all those things, of course. So what we're going to do in a Pilates and a yoga class in stretching is counter balance that. So we're going to do things in the extreme opposite. So that way, then we end up in a neutral, which is where our posture should be, right? We don't want it too forward. We don't want it too back. And you kind of want it just right, the Goldilocks theory, the Goldilocks method. So a lot of times I'll have in Pilates clients do things with their feet. So imagine these are my feet, not my hands, turned in. And we don't really want to walk like that in real life, obviously. But a lot of people do walk turned out. Yep. And so if I have them do exercises with their feet turned in, what happens is then they end up with their feet parallel, which means your hips are going to be parallel and not turned out or turned in, or, anything that is going to create the rest of the vertebrae to kind of not be where they need to be. So in that hour, or 2 hours or 30 minutes, whatever you choose to devote to your exercise, you will be putting your body in some awkward positions, but there's always a reason for it as far as coming back to neutral when we're done, right? So there's weird lifts and twists and things we do, and people are like, oh my God, I'm barely moving. I'm moving like an inch and it hurts so much. But there's somebody developed, the exercise, and then they train people like me to teach it to other people. And there's a method to the madness. So doing a class once isn't going to get you into your skinny jeans or, give you better posture. It's really about, again, go back to brushing your teeth. What if you brush your teeth once between your 6-month visits? Your dentist is going to be like, what the hell?
Right.
You have to do it daily and twice a day, right? So it's the same with fitness. People can't do these spurts where like, oh, I work out for a month and then I don't work out at all for a month. And then I work out for a week and then I don't work out for 5 weeks. And then I work out for 3. Like, you would never do that with brushing your teeth. That's why I just keep coming back to that. It's got to be something you do all the time, regularly.
Well, and that's one of the things I think people find very difficult. I know I do, is, I tend to spend a lot of time doing things for others, my family or my clients, and it's very difficult to carve out time to devote to me. But that's been one of the things that I've learned over the past few years as my body has changed. That is probably one of the, if not the most important thing, is to really, like you said, commit, some time. And that's one of the things that I actually end up finding when I consult is people don't understand the importance they underestimate the importance of taking time and scheduling time, including time on you.
Yeah. So the best thing ever is the Apple Watch, because you can have, or you have the rings, right? It's the stand ring is the middle, and you should set it at 12 hours a day. But you can always adjust it higher or lower. And then the exercise ring, which is the green one in the middle. And I think 45 minutes is probably good a day. And then the biggest ring, the red one, is the move ring. So my goal is to close all 3 rings every single day. And if it's like 9:45 at night, and I'm like, shoot, I have not closed my move ring, I open my sliding door, I run out to the backyard, and I do my battle ropes.
Good for you.
Or if I just started a show and I really want to watch it, I get down on the ground and I start doing my sit-ups, and I'm doing all these things. And I'm not doing it because I'm trying to lose weight on the scale or I'm trying to squeeze it into a tight dress. I'm doing it because I want to close that freaking ring. Because I want to hear the bling. It's like fireworks that go off on the watch. It's the best feeling when I close my rings. And then at the same time, I'm like so bummed when I don't close my rings. So it really motivates me to like park a little farther because I know I'll get more movement, or, take the stairs instead of the elevator. All those little things, it adds up. If you do them all the time.
It does.
Yeah. The worst
Well,
is
and
we drove to California this weekend and back. So there's like 4 or 5 hours in the car where you literally cannot stand, so I'm like, and you cannot move. So then I just did extra stuff in the morning before we got in the car, and some extra stuff in the afternoon when we got home to kind of make up for it. And had I not had my rings hold me accountable, I don't know that I would have done that.
that's good. You found something that is very rewarding, and
Yeah.
it's the rewarding part of doing of implementing that into anything that you're trying to do. It's important to reward yourself, even if it's something as simple as really looking forward to those fireworks going off.
Well, and I have like 15 friends that follow me, and so they
so they hold you accountable too. They hold you accountable too.
Yeah, they do.
Cool. Well, I want to rewind into something that you were saying just a little bit ago, because I have a question. You had mentioned at the beginning that there aren't a lot of guys that do yoga, and I mean, I'm guilty of that too. Although I have done yoga in various times in my life, I've never done it on the regular.
Right.
So, can I ask you, with your experience, what would you say to guys that can get them to want to consider getting yourself into something like this? Why should I be doing it?
Sure. I do have a regular client that is a guy. I go to him every week, and he's a golfer, and he says it is the reason that he is his age and can still golf well and doesn't have the back issues that his other, peers have, is because he does yoga. So it helps him with his spinal rotation. If you think about your backswing and your, follow through and all that, if your core is tight, it's going to be a shorter range of motion. The shorter range of motion, the ball doesn't go as far. I mean, it's this whole domino effect, right? So he's got incredible flexibility because he does yoga every week, and he loves golf. And so it has helped him to continue to age gracefully doing what he loves, and it gives him a great quality of life. So I can't say none of my clients are men, but yes, it is definitely fewer. But I do think a lot of men are hesitant to do yoga because they're inflexible by nature. And it's just something they have to work at. And it's kind of like you
do have to work at it, especially as a man. I agree. It's tough.
Yeah. So on the flip side with women, they're generally not great at push-ups. So what do? They want to do their knee push-ups. And I'm like, no, that's not a push-up. I'd rather you hold a plank and then do like an occasional push-up than give me 50 push-ups on your knees, because knee push-ups are not going to help you get better at regular push-ups. But holding plank and doing 5 really good push-ups is going to help you do 6 push-ups. And just sticking to those 6 push-ups will help you do 7 push-ups. But people have a number and they're like, I want to do 50. And it's like, you can't do 5. Why is 50 your goal? Right. So doing it in proper form, but just doing less.
Yeah. And we've talked about this actually a little bit on the show, is about setting realistic goals.
Yeah.
Set realistic goals for yourself. Know what you can achieve, and there's nothing wrong with knowing where you want to be. If you want to be at 50, that's cool. But you also have to realize you can't just do, you can only barely do 5. Let's start with 6.
Yes. Yeah.
It's really important.
So when men are not flexible to go into a down dog and swing their leg to a lunge, they're like, okay, I just can't do yoga. But it's like, well, just work on holding a lunge structure every day, and work on down dog, work on them separately. And then when your body is like, has that muscle memory and it's like, okay, I know what this is, then you can combine the two. And from there, it's like, okay, I can't come up into warrior 1 with my hands because I lose my balance. Start with holding one hand on the wall and just bringing one hand up, and then, okay. And then eventually they've got 2 hands, and then eventually you don't need the wall. So not doing it isn't going to get you good at it. You just modify, do it less, obviously, and with help, with aids, with assistance, with props like blocks.
Well, guys, finding somebody like Jillian that can think sideways like this too, I think also plays into what we were talking about earlier about how helpful you are from a life coach perspective, to be able to get people to kind of think sideways a little bit and say, hey, listen, there might be something that you haven't thought of yet.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't think, because I didn't think of doing it next to a wall until you just said it. Yeah. Wow. Maybe I would be less intimidated by it,
Right.
And that's another thing too. Men don't want to be intimidated. Nobody wants to be intimidated, but men shy greatly away from being intimidated by things that they can't do.
Oh, for sure.
So
I think their egos are a little more involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Need to get rid of that ego and get your butts in.
Yeah.
We're going to put all sorts of contact information in, along with links to.
I can't believe it's been an hour.
I know it has.
How did that happen?
I do want, before I leave, there are a couple of just closing questions that I like to ask everybody, because I like to get a little bit of a barometer here for where everybody feels. So I'm going to ask you, what scares you about where we are right now in any facet that you want to answer the question, and what excites you about that same?
I think that kids are a little bit more entitled, and I'm worried that they're not going to have this blowout growth mindset, because you have to work for that. And a lot of kids, teens, and older, they just kind of want things, they want to start at the top or they want things handed to them. And that scares me, because then what? What if it doesn't get handed? What if they have to start making minimum wage and work, and they don't want the job because of it, but then they have no job? And it's like, that scares me. The overall sense of entitlement for the youth in America, at least, scares me a little bit.
What do you think that stems from? What do you think that people need to get more to alleviate that?
Well, I think it comes from parents that want to give their kids everything they didn't have. So maybe overcompensation happened along the way.
Sure. Yeah.
Every kid wants an iPhone when they're 10 and this and that, and it's like, what?
Where do you draw the line? And what is that?
$1,000 devices that you're just walking around with? Like, what?
Yeah. And where do you draw the line, and where does that line need to really go? Yeah. I mean, I agree 100% on that, because I think people need to be a little bit more aware of what's going on and what the ramifications of our actions are, especially when it comes to putting technology into hands, and, not picking these moments of presence where you can, hopefully try to teach a lesson rather than, facilitate maybe something else happening. So what excites you?
Well, I mean, technology and where it's going is obviously exciting. I mean, CES comes every year and you're like, wait, what? That's going to be a thing. And then sure enough, a few years later, there it is. And you're like, oh, I remember hearing about that at CES. But it's that same thing that scares me, because technology is so freaky but then it's also so great. And then we can't live without it. So it's a double-edged sword.
And we also have that benefit too. Jillian and I are both here in Las Vegas, and we have the benefit of pretty much almost everything in the world at some point or another comes to Vegas and hits Vegas. So we're exposed to a lot of cool stuff, and CES is definitely one of them. So, well, listen, it's been a real blast. I'm sure we could go on for another hour here. Thank you so much, Jillian, for joining us today. If anybody is in Las Vegas, wants to up their game, wants to contact Jillian, I definitely suggest go get the book. I hope one day, Jillian, you also consider narrating it and putting it up on Audible. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of really great stuff in there. I've thumbed through it and I've ordered it. So I'll put links into your articles, which are a riot. You all have to read them. They're so much fun. They're not very long.
They're like 3-minute reads. Really.
Yeah, they're not very long at all. They're great. And really, you'll fall in love with Jillian and what her mission is, and how it plays into the Blowout Growth Network. Thank you so much, Jillian, for being here.
Bye.
Hope to see you again soon. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. Please share this with anybody that you think would love this information, and let's keep the joy flowing and the happiness flowing for all of us. Thank you for sharing your expertise and your time with us, Jillian.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Bye.